Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Hello, most of us have a situation like this when surfing TikTok, Facebook, or playing games. It can be a moment that 1 or 2 hours have passed. But when I sit down to work, I can only focus for 15 minutes and then I start to get distracted, pick up my phone and go to TikTok to watch my long legs for 5 minutes to stay awake, but then again every 30 minutes. The hours go by meaninglessly, and even though you know you've wasted your time, the situation repeats itself over and over. So in today's video, I will guide you through a scientifically proven method that is extremely effective to detox from Facebook, focus on working hard and earn a lot of money. This is how I did it and it worked. Let's get started. Actually, it's not difficult to understand when we like to play games like use Facebook but can't focus on work for long. Scientists have studied for a long time and discovered that all the freedom a criminal causes, and that is dopamine, a neurotransmitter produced in the brain. To understand dopamine, let's take a look at the following experiment done by a German scientist named Lucker. In an experiment where mice were exposed to a lever, every time the lever was activated, a small electrical current was injected into the brain of the rat to produce dopamine. And this experiment showed that the mice continuously acted on the lever. They indulged in this game for hours and hours and more playing with the lever. Then the scientists cut off the current from the switch so that there was no more dopamine stimulation to the brains of the rats. They became bored, tired, and dull like an addict without drugs. Even water and food, no need either. So here we see that dopamine has made mice addicted to playing the lever game. That is because dopamine, when released in the brain, will make animals including humans feel high, happy, and happy. You know, the happier something is, the more we like to do it, and other studies also show that when we use Facebook, TikTok, or play games, our brain tends to release more dopamine, which gives us feel high, happy. Even gambling or watching movies is the same. The good learning process is that sometimes it also stimulates the body to release dopamine, but only in cases where good people are rewarded in the process of studying and working. For example, a good student in math is often taught by a teacher. Math is commendable, so students will tend to get a lot of dopamine when learning math and will be very happy when sitting at the desk. But people who are bad at math certainly don't release dopamine when learning, so it must be very boring to study this subject. Therefore, people will be excited when working with a lot of dopamine. On the contrary, they will be very bored and distracted when doing things that do not release dopamine. And an important problem is that our brain also consumes dopamine. If dopamine is secreted in 10 units, there will always be 10 units in the brain, but the brain will gradually eat this dopamine. So the amount of dopamine will gradually decrease when the dopamine is less, and we will feel uncomfortable like thirst. When you are thirsty, you have to find a way to drink water and lack dopamine. You also have to find a way to increase the amount of dopamine, and how to increase dopamine is very simple. You just need to do the same things that we do, for example, long ago. If you still play games to release dopamine, when the time comes to lack of dopamine, you will feel uncomfortable and have to play the game again. If you have released dopamine thanks to smoking, then when there is a shortage of dopamine, you will have to continue smoking. Similar to watching the next movie, if you lacked dopamine anyway, you will open the movie to watch. That proves you've become addicted to movies, and the interesting thing here is that no matter how dopamine is released, your body feels the same way. For example, when you wake up in the morning and feel uncomfortable because of a lack of dopamine, you will rinse your mouth with an adult episode. About an hour later, the amount of dopamine begins to decrease, and you feel uncomfortable again, but at work, you can't watch a movie. So you pull out a cigarette and it still gives you a good feeling because the drug also produces dopamine. Then at noon, you feel uncomfortable because of a lack of dopamine, but you are in the meeting room and can't smoke, you can't watch movies. At this time you will take out your phone to look at pictures of pretty girls. This will also help replenish dopamine. You will see we have to constantly replenish dopamine for the body to be comfortable. But assuming you are so bored with your job that you have to work, there is no other choice but to release dopamine. When you have to be a job you absolutely hate, but still doable, by trying to find some joy in the work you are doing. For example, recall if there was a time when you were given praise for doing a good job. Remembering that joy also helps to release dopamine. But what if the boss has never praised? Maybe give him $100 and tell him to compliment you even if it's a lie. Or if you're still bored, you can imagine that tomorrow when you go to the office, you will see a lovely colleague that also helps your dopamine release. Or even think of something huge. For example, keep trying and you'll be a director. The brain doesn't know the difference between real pleasure and fake pleasure, so if you imagine fake pleasure, it's still actually releasing dopamine. Do you find a lot of times when you are excited to work because imagining a bright future is the way to release dopamine to make boring work interesting and avoid being distracted by toxic dopamine sources? But there's another way, which is much more difficult, and that is to reduce the average amount of dopamine in the brain to a low level. For example, if your average has been 10 to 8 for a long time, then you feel uncomfortable. So now practice so that it's down to step 5, so dopamine is at 6, you still feel very happy. But how to do that is simple. You send yourself to hell like eating Wagyu beef for a long time, now fast for 1 day. Make sure you eat rice mixed with fish sauce at that time, you will also feel delicious. Similar to dopamine, you force yourself to work hard or lock yourself in a room with no entertainment for a long time so that the dopamine drops to 0. And sustains for a long time until now the body's dopamine will certainly decrease accordingly. Before 10, now it only needs 5, then don't say that you can't play games, just have a book and you'll be happy. This is the way that peoples apply to drug addiction so that they are addicted to the camp, and the dopamine immediately drops to 0. It's good to be forced to endure it, then it's good to be allowed to play sports, to work outside, but I don't expect to be able to play drugs anymore. So through this video, we see if you lose concentration it is because the amount of dopamine is decreasing, and if you want to work effectively. Use the solution to compensate for dopamine by good habits or imagining good things. Nice at work. If you want to improve yourself completely, lower your average dopamine level by sending yourself to hell. That's all for this video. We hope you found it informative. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such videos. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.